We're going to join really a distinct pleasure in terms of welcoming Paul Ruh. So Paul is a fellow MIT nerd. He is the CFO of Kenvue. So you folks might remember. Actually, let me pause for a moment. There are some wonderful folks in the back. If you guys would love to sit, there's some beautiful chairs right up here at the front table. I promise, I don't bite. There's perfect there. Okay, we got some chairs going. So Paul he went to MIT. He was working at Johnson & Johnson. They tapped him on the shoulder to help with the spin out of Kenvue. So for all of you, with Kenvue, think Band-Aids, Tylenol, not cell phones, Band-Aids, Tylenol, Q-tips, or as I like to say, aisle 5 through 6 in CVS. And Paul, we're very fortunate to have Paul and Don join us up on stage, dig into a little bit of culture at Kenvue, and we have chairs, so we're off to a good start. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks. Sorry, Jeremy. Paul, good morning.
Morning. Good to be here.
Well, welcome. So to kick off, as Jeremy was saying, your brands have been around for a century, but Kenvue itself is pretty new. So maybe you could just give folks a little history and a little context description of what Kenvue is, what you do.
Sure. Happy to. And it's great to be here. Yes, I am an alum of the Sloan Management School, and I've been in the U.S. after that. So it's great to be here originally from Mexico. So Kenvue, what is Kenvue? I was at the dinner table yesterday and people asked me, what is Kenvue? Kenvue is two things. Ken, from Scottish, knowledge, view is foresight. But that doesn't say anything. But I am sure that you know that we have brands that hopefully you used even this morning. We are divided into three segments. One segment is self-care, or OTC, with brands like Tylenol, Motrin, Nicorette. The second segment is skin health, with brands like Neutrogena, Aveeno. And the last segment is what we call essential health, and that includes brands like Listerine and Johnson's Baby. So overall, it's a $15.5 billion company, 45 billion market cap, a recent split from Johnson & Johnson, and 22,000 Kenvuers strong. And it's a very exciting moment for us. I was thrilled when I was invited to come to the conference, because I could have spoken about the IPO process, about the split, raising $8 billion of debt. But what we're in the middle of is a significant transformation. And in the middle of it is culture and agility, because we are splitting ourselves from one of the largest healthcare companies in the world, and now we are one of the largest, if not the largest, consumer health companies in the world. And what is required to win in a fit-for-purpose manner is very different. So at the core is culture.
Great. And it's so interesting when a company spins off, it has an opportunity to not only, as you say, kind of rethink the financial and reporting systems, but also the operating system of the company as a whole and the culture. And there are a lot of things you could have focused on, but you chose to focus on agility. So what was the motivation for agility? And what's in your mind? What's the link between agility and a culture of agility and economic value creation?
Yeah, we had to focus on agility because our business rhythms between a pharmaceutical company or a medtech company and a consumer company, they're just very different. The business rhythm of a pharma company is you make decisions, huge decisions, but the rhythm is more elongated. In consumer, you need to make decisions like this. Every day, every decision matters. So that's one of the reasons. The second reason is we have a golden opportunity to not only separate ourselves from Johnson & Johnson, but we're still tied by what we call transition service agreements, transition manufacturing agreements. They still provide services to us. But this presented an opportunity to rethink how we do things. And if we did not grasp the opportunity to change the way we do things, not only for the sake of effectiveness but also efficiency, we would have wasted a great moment to change. So we took it, and now we are changing from values to systems to cultures to incentives, you name it. Again, it's exciting times, and we need to grasp this moment in time because we do not need to create a burning platform like other companies. Other companies need to say, oh, what external events are happening. We have this opportunity that we're taking advantage of.
Great. So let's, if we could, dig into the details of how you're going about building this culture of agility. So let's start with ownership and employee ownership. Again, as you know, we just talked about, empowerment is the key to agility. But for leaders to trust employees to be empowered, those employees have to act like owners, right? And what we know empirically, and it's very well documented, is that the majority of employees are not acting like owners in most companies, right? So what was your kind of assessment going in? And what are the changes that you're trying to drive to build that sense of ownership? And how's it going so far? What do you think is working well? What do you find challenging?
Good. There's many things that are going well, and there's opportunities, of course. But how do we make sure that our Kenvuers are owners? One thing is we gave them founder shares. So that was very simple. We gave every one of the 22,000 Kenvuers founder shares, which was not an easy thing to do from a treasury perspective because we have operations in 165 countries, so that was not easy. But anyway, one of the things that we did is precisely give them founder shares. So they listen to earnings releases and they know what they do matters. Before, we represented about 15% of sales of Johnson & Johnson and less of income. So now they know what they do matters. Before, what pharmaceuticals and medical devices did, that's what mattered. So our employees now listen to the earnings release, and the day after the earnings release, or even the day off, they get an email from me. Every one of the 22,000 employees, they get an email from me, that's called the view from the street, and we have a scorecard. And the scorecard lays out, this is how we're doing in the critical metrics in sales, gross profit, income, and cash flow with stoplights. So everyone knows exactly how we're tracking and how everyone contributes to the success of the company or not. So transparency is fundamental, and I think it's going well. It's going well, but our employees need to make sure that they understand what it means. With transparency and visibility comes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and how, we've talked about this. I know Johnson & Johnson reasonably well, and I think one of the challenges any organization that large and diversified faces is that it's easy, as you were saying, to kind of feel lost or that what you're doing doesn't have an impact. So, if you'll have many employees who've spent years, decades maybe, in the J&J system, and now all of a sudden it's Kenvue. What are some of the challenges that you observe for them making that transition and kind of feeling that sense of accountability and ownership? And how are you and the team helping bring your 22,000 colleagues along?
It's a great question, and particularly with finance, and I'll give you the example of my leadership team. My leadership team consists of 1/3 leaders who were with me working in consumer health before, 1/3 leaders who are subject matter experts and were at Johnson & Johnson, and now they're with us. For example, the head of taxes. I love that my head of taxes knows exactly where all the issues are and where the opportunities are. And then I have 1/3 of new employees that come from consumer companies, the head of IR, the treasurer. So I think that mix of culture is great. Because I have people who've been with me my head of taxes, will be celebrating 25 years on Monday. And then I have my controller, who was actually the #1 employee in accounting, and she formed the group from scratch. And the combination of culture and the challenge is exactly what I love, the challenge. So that's one thing. The other one is incentives. The incentives that we changed the incentive scheme, and the board and the compensation committee of the board dedicated a lot of energy to making sure that we had, out of the gate, a very clear and different incentive scheme. And we changed a lot of metrics. #1, the focus on sales. Now it represents about 40% of our incentives. Before, it was a significantly lower portion. #2, we added one metric, which is gross profit. In pharmaceuticals, less in medical devices, pharmaceuticals have gross margins in the 90s. That's not our case. So we need to find the fuel for growth, and gross margin is a source of growth. And then the other thing is we made it very mechanical. And what does it mean? A numerical. If you deliver X, your performance or your compensation will be Y. Very formulaic, less subjective, and it is actually based on the company performance and not what you deliver. So those are the three things that we did. Infusing our teams with people who are challengers, and also changing the incentives, because you know exactly what you will get, and it's different from what you were used to getting before.
Perfect, great. So another element, so as you have this team of empowered employees who are really kind of viewing the world as owners, which is great. To really have agility, they have to. You don't want them just all chasing after different opportunities in different directions, right? You need some level of alignment. You need folks moving in, being opportunistic and agile, but moving in the same rough direction. So how do you create that sense of transparency specifically around, here are our strategic priorities. Here's, how we're measuring progress. Here's what's working well. Here's what other teams are doing. Also that those employees, these empowered employees acting like owners, can say, this is how I can support the strategy. This is how I can be, kind of line up what I'm doing with the strategy.
Great. That's exactly what we're going through at this moment in time of the year in our planning cycle. And it is, #1, making sure that we have very clear priorities. And the priorities for us are reaching more consumers, #1, getting the fuel for growth, and creating a culture of impact and accountability. And by the way, our CEO, yesterday we had a global town hall, and he revealed our priorities for 2025. And guess what? They're exactly the same. So they're exactly the same priorities, and that consistency is good. But how do we cascade those? We use a methodology that's called OKRs. Some of you may be familiar with those. It is objectives and key results. It's basically a pyramid that has 3 pillars and ladders up to the objectives of the whole organization, and then it gets cascaded down from the CEO all the way down to the front line. The 3 pillars that we have are actually very much aligned with the priorities we talked about. The first pillar is about putting more products in consumers' hands through driving what we call mental availability and physical availability. Mental availability is whether we do it directly through advertising. It can be on TV, which is less and less, or digital, which about 80% of our advertising is digital now. Or through healthcare professionals. That's another way we advertise indirectly to our consumers. And then physical availability is making sure that our products are where consumers are, whether it's online or offline, with high reliability. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is getting the fuel for growth, which is driving efficiencies in gross profit, efficiencies in SG&A, and then working capital and cash flow metrics as well. And the last one is all about our planet and our people. So those are the 3 priorities, and they're very linked to the OKRs. And we have a dashboard that's electronic, and every employee has access to it, so they can just click on each one of the columns and look at the KPIs and understand where we stand. So that's the way we drive alignment from the top to the bottom. It ladders up very systematically, and it's aligned with the 3 priorities that we have as a company.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we've done, my team, as part of the Strategic Agility Project, we've looked a lot at OKRs and what makes them more or less effective. And one of the key elements is that element of transparency. But what we've also found is when you go into organizations where historically there's been less transparency, goals were maybe discussed with your HR head or your boss once or twice a year, that there's a transition period where employees, it takes them a while to really kind of get their arms around this level of transparency. So have you found that to be the case? How are employees, what's the reaction to this level of transparency? How are they using it? What do they find helpful?
It definitely has. And remember what I said about our incentives? They're now very numerical and less subjective. Before it was an agreement, you wrote something that was more action-based rather than impact-based. I will attend a CFO seminar. Okay, fine. What's the output of that? Yeah. It's not only going to Boston and enjoying, so what are you going to be different and what is going to impact the bottom, how is it going to impact the bottom line? So less of those activity-based objectives, it's more outcome-based objectives. And it has been a change. It has been a change. It's very important how we set objectives that have to be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, and time-bound. And we spend a lot of time making sure that we have the right objectives. And we changed the culture from activity-based to impact-based.
Yeah, great. So another element of, actually one of the biggest either obstacles or enablers of agility in organizations, especially larger organizations with multiple teams and units, is around resource reallocation.
Yeah.
The ability to reallocate not just cash, talent, management attention across different teams, units, functions as circumstances change. So how as a team are you kind of addressing that, kind of helping to build that agility and that ability to reallocate resources? Because most companies struggle with this mightily. Most organizations really struggle to reallocate resources.
Yes. So I agree, and that's a little bit of a work in progress, but we have a few things that are going for us. One of them being that we are structurally what I call a pure play, and let me explain what it means. We play in all areas where we have the consumer at the center. And it's not like other consumer companies where you have, you said they sell pet food, they sell laundry detergents, they sell food or tea or whatever. In our case, it's all about the consumer, so we put the consumer at the center. So when it comes time to make a decision on how to allocate resources, we do not have the artificial divides between the different segments or clusters because it's all about driving consumption and putting more products in our consumers' hands. And it's not how often they wash their shirts. So I'll give you an example. The allergy season is ticking up, and we sense it through allergy incidences, pollen counts, and we get ready to do the advertising specifically by consumer, by zip code in Texas. Cedar fever is about to kick off because we see that the trees are blooming. So we immediately put the advertising to work, and we shift the resources from what might have been a lower sun season because it was cloudy, which was the case this year, and we move resources very quickly. You can do that because it's not about compromising or taking off an unfamiliar segment to our segment. So that's the beauty of Kenvue, that we're structurally advantaged. But the other important thing is we provide them with the tools. And it's a very ROI-driven approach for us. It's all about ROI. We look at our marketing mix model, the different components, whether it's promotion, advertising, distribution, etc. And they do the educated decisions on the spot to make sure that we move resources very quickly. That's the difference between what we do versus what we used to do with Johnson & Johnson before. That's the agility, the quick decision making, and systems enable us to do that as well. We've had a lot of change in systems, and we did not necessarily have the granularity that we need to have. I'll give you an example, and this is not necessarily a commercial or advertising for one of the sponsors of the conference, but we switched our reporting system to a OneStream. And OneStream, it's great going, by the way, it's going very well, but it gives us the granularity that we need to be able to make those decisions. We have SKU level data, SKU level P&L by region, almost by zip code. And we are able to make those resource allocations very, very quickly. So visibility is key. Having the right systems that allow us to make the right decisions with a very ROI-based approach that allows us to maximize value.
Perfect. All right, one more question, then we'll open it up to the
Sure.
to the audience. So, one of the key drivers of any culture is top leadership team. And there's been some I won't share all of the findings, although they're quite amusing, some very interesting research on the impact of CFOs on corporate culture and then outcomes. One of which is, if you have a CFO who's been convicted of operating under the influence or other crimes that didn't land them in jail but were crimes, the probability of the company during that CFO's tenure committing financial fraud is almost 20% higher, all other things being equal. So, and as I mentioned, though, on the other hand, if you have a CEO who was in the military, you're 40% less likely to commit financial fraud. So for both better and worse, the top team plays a super important role in shaping the culture and then the social norms and then the behavior. So how are you and your colleagues in the C-suite thinking about your role, what you can do to help your 22,000 colleagues make this transition to a more agile organization, kind of set the example? How do you view your role as leaders to build this culture?
The way we cascade our values, it's through behaviors and it's leader-led. It's not necessarily going to take a course or through online learning or it's all about what you can learn from your manager, and your manager is responsible for your development, your performance, and having those conversations on a day-to-day basis. In the past, I've been used to episodic, for example, feedback. You set your objectives in the beginning of the year, you do a mid-year calibration, at the end of the year, you get your feedback, thank you very much, here's your score, bye. Here, it's all about constant, on-the-spot feedback, and it's leader-led. I know the pitfalls of surveys. We just heard about them, but we have in our org health survey 4 metrics. One of them is, of course, the overall engagement score. The second one is people leader effectiveness. So it's a little bit of a 360. They evaluate how your leaders behave, diversity and inclusion, and the third one is decision making. The fourth one is decision making. And I think between decision making and people leader effectiveness, I think those differentiate us from probably other companies, because I think those are the drivers of how you drive an engagement, a differentiated culture, particularly in times of change, particularly when you need to make so many adaptations and change behaviors and shed old behaviors. You literally need to get rid of old behaviors and acquire new ones. I think the only way to do it, or one of the ways to do it, is leader-led. And that's why leading by example, making bold moves, making very visible moves, that's the way to do it, and it's serving us well so far.
Terrific. All right, let's open it up to your questions. And I think, do we have microphones around the room? How are we? Oh, okay, terrific.
I don't need a microphone. How do you deliver bad news?
You know what?
The question was, how do you deliver bad news?
How do you deliver bad news? With transparency and not waiting to deliver the bad news. And just I think it's two things: transparent, timely, and fact-based. And the bonus is depersonalize the bad news. It's all about understanding under what circumstances elements happened, whether it's driven by a person or not. I think that's the way to do it. Don't wait. Say it the way it is and be fact-based. That's how we do it. We've had a share of bad news. We should have a share of good news as well.
We got another question over there in the back. There'll be a mic coming towards you in a moment.
I think we can hear you.
So I want to talk about when you're modifying cultural expectations, how do you set the accountability? What is the accountability to affect that change? Can you use an example? And importantly, if the change isn't happening in the way you thought it would, at what point do you readjust or think about a different change, a different metric?
Yes. So let me start with your first question, which is how do you drive accountability? And I think it's by having three elements. Number one is very clear objectives and very clear KPIs and tracking them. And tracking them on a very frequent basis. That's why I talked a lot about the priorities and the OKRs. I think the OKRs are a very, very good way to drive accountability and measure them on a monthly basis. And if things don't work, you have to have immediate feedback. That's why it's not about these episodic elements of feedback. So the combination of having clear goals, what we call OKRs, track, and provide immediate feedback and course correction, that's the way to do it. I don't think there's a silver bullet to do it, but it's ingrained in the culture. And don't wait to act. Make it very visible. And if things are not working, you need to take action. And what action it means, take whatever people actions that are necessary. I think it's hire slowly and fire fast. Yes.
So you mentioned employee development.
A mic is coming your way.
Okay, I think you can hear me. Sorry.
I could, but
Hello. That's too close. Sorry. You mentioned employee development and kind of cultivating your employees from a managerial and learning development standpoint. You said that in those instances of instead of providing systems and tools, LinkedIn learnings and things of that sort, the manager needs to take more control of that and kind of constantly have that communication with the employee. What if you have an employee that's technically sound, but when it comes to that managerial style of constantly bringing those things up, it's ineffective to them, or it reacts to it. It's a negative reaction to it. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So in terms of training and education, we recently launched a Kenvue learning portal that has all aspects of training that go from the technical, whether it is accounting or R&D, and to managerial aspects. So I think those are great tools that are at our disposal. LinkedIn provides an amazing wealth of ready to use trainings. So it's one of the tools that we use. The other way to do it is one. It's a little bit of a playful way that we use. We play a little bit of a card game, which is based on our values and behaviors, and we get together every now and then, and we talk about how we bring to life our behaviors. Our behaviors is outside in focus. We care fiercely, and it's about daring spirit. And in the cards, you show examples. It's like a little bit of like a monopoly, and just bring to life examples of how you do it. So it's a little bit of, I wouldn't say indoctrinating, but it is making sure that everyone understands and has discussions around what it means to care fiercely, what it means to have a daring spirit and have an outside-in focus. Those discussions are actually very, very good in terms of aligning everyone and understanding and getting a pulse on the organization of what is working and what is not working and where we need to course correct. So I think it's all about having the right tone from the top and having the right transparent conversations. It is so important to have a fit-for-purpose culture. What I learned is Johnson & Johnson, we inherited fantastic things, fantastic values. We care about people, but what worked for J&J does not necessarily work for us if we just lift and shift. It is fit for purpose, and it is all about culture at the center. And all of these elements that we talked about, whether it's incentives, whether it's objectives, whether it's transparency, behaviors, leader-led, are the elements that have worked for us. So it's exciting, it's super exciting times for Kenvue. I never dreamt I could be in such an opportunity to be here, but thanks to Sloan in one part and being in the right place at the right time, I have the fortune of leading these fantastic organizations. So thank you for having me.
And please join us in thanking Paul.
Thank you.